So, welcome everybody to reserve seating. We can talk about anything you want. We can talk about Triple Frontier and Ben Affleck month. I went to a Himalayan salt spa.
I
Reserve
lost one
seating
of my
starts right now.
iPods or my
You lost
AirPods.
your AirPods.
Yeah, I lost an AirPod like
Man,
right before we started recording, so that sucks.
so take that.
Yeah, so take that. Ben Affleck month, bitches. And this is a good one.
It is a good one.
It's a
Was this
good
your
one.
first time seeing Triple Frontier?
No. But
Okay.
this is my first time rewatching.
I don't think I'd seen it since 2019. It was on my top 10 list that year. And I know I watched it twice, like once just initially, and then once it was like a rewatch to see where it would rank in my 10 and everything like that, which I'm not doing this year. I'm not rewatching shit. I'll just throw down the gauntlet. Top three Netflix movies of all time.
Oh, for sure. Oh, 100%.
Yes.
Which other two?
For me, it's The Irishman is far and away number
The
one.
Irishman is number one for me.
I would put Triple Frontier probably two.
Okay.
And then three, I would put Horse Girl, but I know that I'm like maybe a bigger fan of Horse Girl than
You
most
do
people.
love Horse Girl with the Force of a Thousand Suns, which I mean I like that movie, but yeah, I'd have to go through the list. But I agree with your top two. Triple Frontier is really strong, surprisingly strong. Crazy. One of those movies where it's crazy that they got these guys together,
Mhm.
and that it's these guys. It's Affleck, it's Pedro Pascal. It's these guys who all have not all, but like have similar energies. Like they're often you can see them losing roles to each other. They
Yeah.
are often cast to do similar things, and yet
Mhm.
they're all together in this, and they all have different energy. Like it works. Like they all have a really good dynamic. I was afraid there'd be some like repetition or like what would some guys would get muddled, but everybody's doing something different and interesting and really good in this. I really like this one a lot.
Yeah, you're right that they all have their own individual personalities,
Yeah.
where Oscar Isaac is like kind of the dominant one in the
Mhm.
cast. And then Affleck has the gravitas part.
Right.
Pedro Pascal looking exactly like Burt Reynolds.
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah. He's
is
squirrely in
kind
this
of
one.
like the up and comer type
Yeah.
star because this was pre Mandalorian.
Yeah. Totally.
And this is
Squirrely.
somehow a movie where Garrett Hedlund and Charlie Hunnam occupy the same space and
That's what I'm
time.
talking about.
Garrett Hedlund, I think, from evidence of Four Brothers and Triple Frontier, he works like he's perfect in as being the one you make fun of in the macho group.
Yeah, totally.
I've
Um,
grown to be a Charlie Hunnam fan in increments over time because like this he I think he's really good in. He holds the screen. He's got a certain measure of like kind of star power that I haven't seen him in. Like in other movies, like he was really good in like Green Street Hooligans. That's kind of
yeah,
where I first saw him. That and then he was on the Judd Apatow show Undeclared in a very different kind of role.
in a different way.
But like in his tough guy leads, like I always kind of think back on Pacific Rim and how like out of place he
He just
seemed.
gets like, yeah, he gets kind of rolled over or sanitized, or he's just kind of standing there, and yeah,
Yeah.
it's never quite as good.
But Triple Frontier also was for me a really pleasant surprise because I was kind of a JC Chandor guy for a while,
Mm-hmm.
and because I thought Margin Call was amazing,
I never
although
saw
I'm pissed that it's got Kevin Spacey in it because that makes me not want to go back
that.
to it. But in terms of like a movie that kind of explains like the financial crisis in the late 2000s, like and puts you just kind of in it
Mhm.
with like the pressure cooker and like a company making like all the wrong decisions for people. Like it's great. And then a most violent year I thought was of like these sort of throwback to the 70s like gangster type homages. I think it's one of the best ones.
I have to rewatch that one. I saw that when it came out, but I've not seen it since. So I'd like to rewatch that in light of this.
And how great is it that you think that the movie is going to be one thing? You think it's going to be them robbing the guy's place for hundreds of millions of dollars and like them kind of doing a getaway,
Yeah.
and you think like it's going to be like the planning of it maybe will be like the first hour or so,
Right.
hour
Get the
15
boys
minutes.
back together, do the plan.
Yeah, but they've got all the money. They got more
Yeah.
money than they even planned on getting by like 45 minutes into the movie. And then it just becomes a movie about logistics. How
Yeah.
do you move $250 million
Over a mountain
over a
in a
mountain?
helicopter.
Exactly. Like,
The answer is you don't.
yeah, exactly.
Spoilers.
It's like all the little details, like about like how much weight can the plane hold without buckling at a certain altitude and everything like that. And then,
And
yeah,
And we always have to go back to, and if JB were here, he would want us to say this, it's always great to see people who are good at their jobs in movies, right? We love
yeah,
to watch movies where people are good at their jobs, and these guys are great. I mean, it's the kind of job where they can just look at each other, or they can make a suggestion, or one guy can kind of nod at another guy, and you know that they're working the logistics in their head based on years and years of experience. You don't need to over explain. Like even the violence in the movie is very I would, subdued. Like in terms of just the actual, like, the bang bang. Like it's not like
yeah.
murder, murder, death, blood, gore. It's like precision shot, precision shot, precision shot, only when needed.
Yeah, and then I also like that so like I've heard examples like, Raiders of the Lost Ark or Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol where it's like you've got the initial impossible task, but then the filmmakers make it so that there's like seven or eight other elements that make it even more difficult.
Yeah,
So it's
everything
like
else
you
goes
think of
wrong.
like so you think of like the opening scene of like Raiders of the Lost Ark. It's not just the boulder, it's the
Right.
the poison darts and everything like that, and the villagers running after him and all this stuff. The
And Alfred
ground
Molina.
splitting open. Yeah. And in Triple Frontier, the thing that, and this is kind of a segue into Ben Affleck, he's one of the obstacles that they
It
have to
is.
get past. So, because he's kind of like the guy that's the most fragile mentally.
Mm-hmm.
He's the one who sort of is the impetus for why they go on this mission. It's because
Yep.
Oscar Isaac feels bad that that Ben Affleck's character was shot multiple times and served his country and now can barely keep it together.
Mm-hmm.
And then when they and he's the responsible one, and he's kind of the one who's reluctant to get into the mission. And then once he sees the money, he just slips, like he just relapses,
Yep.
almost like you would see with somebody like with suffering from some sort of a substance abuse or something like that. Like he just becomes like completely undependable and like somebody you have to look out for. And there's like stuff where like a donkey falls off of a cliff and it falls with like hundreds of or like tens of millions of dollars probably,
Yeah.
and Affleck's like laughing because he's just lost it and
Lost it.
stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
This
it's a really interesting performance, and I think it's great that it kind of plays on his sort of elder statesman of this cast.
and where he is in his life. This My boy is good in this movie. He
Yeah,
is
he is. Yeah,
so good in this, and this is like great, like like post divorce drying out Affleck. Like, no, I mean, look,
yeah,
sincerely, like, and like, it is
yeah.
such the kind. This is like the best beard. This is the best Affleck I think his beard ever got. Is this good
He's so good.
Affleck
Yeah,
beard?
yeah,
Um, and his energy in this. Like, I think about movies he did, like the fucking basketball one, The Way Back, right?
yeah,
Or even
yeah,
like the Tender Bar. And like nothing against those movies, like but they're like saccharine and kind of like, all right, let's feel bad for this, this hero. He's on his way back, right? Like this is the kind of like comeback shit that he like that. Oh, I wish more people had noticed. Like in this movie where he's playing, as you said, like sort of that subdued, like he's very fragile. He's made a bunch of mistakes. He's done all this shit, and he's like kind of he's in a very very vulnerable place in his life, but he's still got his pride, and he's going to do the right, like he's going to try to do the right thing for his family and all that. And
yeah,
it's not showy. He's not he's not blasting in there like Chucky from Good Will Hunting or anything like that. He's not screaming and pounding his fists. It's just like it's all in the eyes, and it's
yeah,
all in the world weariness, and it's all in the sort of the resolutions that he comes to over the course of the movie, and the way that Oscar Isaac looks out for him and all that, and the way they look out for each other, and the that vulnerable moment where things start to really tip and fall apart for him.
yeah.
He's great in this.
In a just world, in a pre-streaming world, if this was like a theatrical release at some point, I think this would have been like a possible best supporting actor nomination type of part.
It
It's got that
certainly
like
deserved it.
Sean Connery Untouchables kind of thing where it's like just showy enough, and him doing something different than we've
Yeah.
ever seen him before and stuff. So yeah.
It's weird because like in the way that it's different. Like he's tried to do the elder statesman supporting role thing before, and like it didn't quite. It wasn't. It was either like he was too much of an ensemble. I'm thinking like a Smoking Aces kind of thing, or
Yeah.
like or it just wasn't. He wasn't quite ready for it. And I think this is that perfect moment where he's like he's back. He's ready for this kind of thing. I'm thinking like Downey Jr. and Zodiac, like where he's like
Mhm.
starting to build his way back.
Yeah.
He's starting to do the right things in just the right ways. Um, so I think you can trace a lot of the Affleck that we have now that we've kind of been celebrating and talking a lot about in this series,
Mhm.
to Triple Frontier, I think. I mean, I think this is where it starts in earnest, unless I'm forgetting something.
Yeah, he seems really dialed in. Like he seems like really interested in this character and like this story and everything and his function within it and stuff. And it's also just like a great Oscar Isaac leading man performance. Like Chandor like works really well with Oscar Isaac.
Yeah,
And
totally.
it's nice to see that. Like I know like I don't want to harp on it, but it's just like when you're in Star Wars universe or you're in the Marvel world and stuff like that, you're not asked to flex certain muscles. And I think in A Most Violent Year or in Triple Frontier, like he grabs the bull by his horns and is like
Yeah,
these are his movies first and
100%.
foremost. Yeah, and he's really good and very believable as like just kind of this hardened, like really precise, professional kind of man of war and everything.
All right, one more week,
Mm-hmm.
Ben Affleck month plus a couple weeks. It's a month total, like it's a month in theater, not a calendar month. It's a
Yeah.
and joining us next week for our final,
Rosalie Lewis.
will be our friend Rosalie. We'll be talking Forces of Nature, a movie I don't think I've ever seen.
I have definitely not seen it,
Okay,
so
cool.
I'm curious.
That'll be fun.
It is from 1999, and good things happen in '99. So
Is it good though? Is it good? You like that one? Yeah, he says he and Sandy had a good time on that one. So
okay, good. I'm glad.
I hope
I'm
we like
glad.
it.
So until next time, we will reserve your seats for you and see you later. And take that. And take that.